Morning. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. There's lots of you. Thanks for joining. My name's Jason Talbot. I'm Managing Director of the Crocodile. Now, much has been written about the customer experience agenda, and for many that I speak to, it still seems to be a sort of an abstract notion rather than a real thing in the minds of many.
Gents, please make your way to the session room.
Warning.
Presentations
Warning.
will start shortly.
That should help the nerves. So getting beyond that abstract notion of that many people have, I'm of the opinion that it's actually a big deal and it's going to have positive and far-reaching consequences for our profession if we allow it, if we embrace it. And apparently I'm not alone in that opinion. So I'd like to try and make the case of why I think marketing should try and seize the opportunity. I don't think it's our God-given right, but I do think we're in the driver's seat to seize this opportunity if we choose to. I'd like to cover this in 4 stages. Why the customer experience agenda literally matters, try and make the case up front. Some strategic fundamentals, a basic game plan, and then making the business case. So away we go. So why does the customer experience agenda matter? Well, before I get into the details of it, I'd like to share a real-life experience. I tried booking a holiday for the first time in years a couple of weeks ago. It's my wife, my 3-year-old, my 1-year-old. That's not easy in itself. So we went online to try and find an airline and a flight. Managed to do that. Successfully found, unfortunately, an orange brand of airline. And my wife made the decision that she wanted to make a phone booking. She wanted the human reassurance that all of our peripherals were going to be taken care of. The prams, the car seats, the beds, the sink. But critically, that the 4 of us were going to be sitting together. She wanted that human reassurance. We made the phone call. We spoke to 2 separate sales agents. Neither conversation was particularly connected, and it was hard going. It was a considerable amount of our time. But we got the seats. Check. Okay, we're feeling okay. The night before the flight, I go online. I go onto the platform to check in. Fail. Wasn't able to check in. Message. Please speak to an agent when you get to the airport. Anxiety levels go from here to here. Now, the flight was at 6:25 a.m. Family of 4, we get up at 3 a.m., get there nice and early, get nice and organised. We're greeted by the airline rep, who goes onto her system and then politely informs us that the flight has been oversubscribed. Now we're really anxious. Long story short, we make it through security, gate 276. No lie. The agent there then reassures us that the flight has indeed been oversubscribed, and furthermore, our 4 seats specifically don't exist, don't have seat. But please take a seat in the front row of the gate and sit there like naughty school children. Takes ages to get out of departures for any of you that have missed a flight, and we get escorted to the back of the customer service line. We get to our customer service agent, nice young man, smiles at us, and he utters the immortal words, "How can I help you, sir?" Now, give me strength. Give me strength. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is that, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is a customer experience fail. It's one that we can all recognise, and I think it's one that we can all share some empathy with. But this is a failure on a number of levels. It's a failure in orchestration, it's a failure in communication, it's a failure of empathy, and it continues to be a failure in resolution. They could have chosen to have made up on negative ground there through resolution. We got given a specific customer service line for compensation. My wife dialed that up last week, and I shit you not, she sat on that line for 2.5 hours and didn't make it through to a single person. Unresolved. So can they counter my positive net promoter score in the coming months? I don't think so. I don't think so. The brand is easy by name, but apparently it's not easy by nature. And the point of this is that this is happening on a regular level. This is an extreme example, albeit true, but customers are doing this every day on our brands. Customers are conducting a referendum on our brand every day, across every department, across every touch point, every day, whether we like it or not. And they're not thinking in channels, they're thinking in overall experiences. How do we make them feel? And I don't subscribe that this is just B2C. I gave you an airline example. This is almost like an airline today, the way that we've crammed you in. But But I gave you an airline example, but this is as relevant to B2B as it is to B2C. And when you look at the CX agenda through the lens of our customers, their experiences are driven by, well, absolutely everything. Their exposure to everything, the sum total of everything. I don't think they switch out of, I'm in human mode, now I'm in B2B mode. The applications that they work with, their views on customer services, they're set by their exposure to everything. And forward-looking companies are already tapping into this. They've already started getting rid of product silo-driven strategies, and they've pivoted to customer-led strategies. This train has left the station. The race is on, whether we like it or not. So you don't have to take my word for it, but leading organizations have already made this shift. And I'll give you a little hunch, and it's just my opinion, but I can see the CEO party line shifting, as it already has done, increasingly towards customer experience. We've all seen enough annual reports over the last coming years, and it's been digital transformation this, digital transformation that. I see this as a natural progression from an operationally led statement to a benefit and growth-based agenda, to the customer experience agenda. I might be wrong, but I think time will tell. But talking of time, I think now is a great time for us as marketers to challenge our perspective on things, challenge what our primary purpose is in terms of what we're trying to achieve as marketing. Now this guy, he's a fucking rock star. He's brilliant. He's no longer with us, unfortunately. But if you've not heard of him, look him up. Many of your CEOs and many of your CMOs will know him. They may have read him through their master's program. But he had high expectations for marketing. Marketing's not a function. It's the whole business from the customer's point of view. That's brilliant. I love that. And what he's trying to tell us is, especially in B2B, let's stop being back office. Let's stop managing channels and platforms and remember our primary mission, making happy customers. That might sound twee, but there is a commercial and intrinsic business function to that. And I think we need to think of that front office function for marketing more frequently. And I don't think that's ever been more relevant. We've got customers that have never been more skeptical about brands. There's never been more distrust in big business. And people are literally paying not to receive our digital marketing. So I believe the customer agenda does matter because it's a business strategy that puts marketing right back at the heart of business. And that's what he wants. So let's make him happy. So strategic fundamentals. So some of you may buy into the opportunity, but if we're trying to build a plan out, what are our basic principles? Principles in a time where product advantage is fleeting. Those windows have never been shorter. We need to find different techniques to maintain that competitive edge. I think our principles start to look something like this, which is about delivering seamless, channel-agnostic experiences everywhere the customer is, whether or not that's marketing, sales, customer service, IT, all working as one. Orchestrated across every interaction that picks up where the last one left off. Contextually taking into account device, location, previous customer buying patterns. And then conveniently moving at the pace of our customer all the way along the customer journey. And then responsive. Customers want it, whatever it is, immediately. The conversation happens at real time. We need to be organised in a way that allows us to move in unison with the customer. Now, when I look at that list, when I first wrote that list, it's sort of like, yeah, it feels comfortable. It's the glossary of marketing words on a single slide. But when I start to try and apply that to the everyday, and then multiply that by trying to apply it to the whole customer journey, it's bloody formidable. It's really formidable. Not easy. Every part of the business working in unison across the physical and digital space to try and deliver one customer experience. That's no small feat. So I'd like us to consider three basic fundamentals before, to challenge ourselves and whether or not we're in position to take hold of this opportunity for the organisations that we're in. So the first one, management buy-in. It's not unimportant in this agenda. And in my humble opinion, if you have a management team that don't buy into or don't believe in the fundamental function of marketing, you might want to try this somewhere else because you won't win if they don't. However, in my experience, the best CEOs tend to be naturals at marketing, and as they continue to bend their head around this agenda, you better be ready. So don't say I didn't warn you. We also need to get a clear handle on this issue. We need to get beyond the abstract notion and start applying it to our businesses, to our everyday functions. I think we're a long way off a mass adoption of this. I don't think it's mainstream yet. I think if you can get ahead of it and get a firm perspectives in terms of how you might apply it, I think it will get you ahead of many of your peers, because I think it's early doors for this. But what I do urge you to do is not to get lost in the tactics, and I think that's what's really hard in today's marketing world. It's really easy to get drawn into small point tactics or platforms or techniques. Try and get an idea of the big picture and understand how those component parts start to fit together. And then you won't get lost in the minutiae of little tactics or pockets of tricks. And then there's credibility. So let's think about it. We get given the gig. We're head of a cross-department team tasked with delivering fantastical customer experiences across the whole buyer journey. We need to make sure that as marketing, we're already providing evidence that we can do that against our own marketing function. Are we delivering end-to-end customer marketing, end-to-end customer dialogue? Are we fulfilling a customer relationship agenda? And I think that CRM word is quite an interesting one to me. I'm ex-B2C, done B2B for the last 10 years, and all the way through my experience in B2B, it's been adopted as a platform, and not even a platform marketing are particularly using. Back in the below the line days, there was this definition. It's a strategy designed to foster customer loyalty, interaction, and long-term engagement. It's designed to develop strong communications with customers by providing them with information directly suited to their needs and interests by promoting open communication. Right? That was as true then, pre-digital, as it is today. And I think it's time that we sort of took the CRM agenda back, took the relationship agenda back, and try and pull ourselves out of the funnel. I think if we can start creating, and designing is a word that I see commonly referred to, especially through Adobe and other players in the space, customer journeys that have the possibility of informing, rewarding, delighting and surprising across the whole customer life cycle, then we lay the conditions to succeed. It starts giving us the credibility to take the position of the customer experience agenda going forwards. But what I do see a lot of, and I have the privilege of being exposed to a number of brands, is an absolute obsession with this. And this, I see a lot of this getting handed off to other departments. If you've ever written a business strategy, this is where the money is. This is where the efficiency and the profitability is. I'd urge us as marketing to try and take that back. So, basic game plan. I'm not going to lie to you, it's a complex strategy. It's not hard, it's not easy, and I don't have a silver bullet answer of how you're going to win in this, because you're going to have to find your own perspective on this and navigate quite a complex portfolio of issues. And Rory touched on a number of themes that apply to this in the narrative that he gave this morning. And unfortunately, what we don't have time to go through in this one session are, the specific details. Leadership, customer journey mapping, getting a single customer view. And then there's the big issue of data orchestration. That could take a day and a half in itself just to get to the top notes. But what I would like to cover is to try and help us gain a fundamental big picture perspective on what the game board looks like. Now, this is, of course, a gross oversimplification, but it does cover a lot of ground. And there's some connective tissue in the logic, I hope. You'll be the judge. 1, customer motivations. Do we understand what the motives, needs, and drivers are of our customers, or are we just guessing? How do we apply those motivation and needs through a portfolio of experiences? Are we designing those experiences? Are we designing them through the whole experience with the brand? And are they reflective of our unique company purpose, our raison d'etre? I think purpose is also an interesting one to unify cross-functional teams. Organisations that have clarity of purpose find it easier to orchestrate teams. It's as simple as that. But I think that orchestration of employees is actually quite an interesting problem and quite a unique problem for B2B, probably more so than B2C. For larger B2B organisations, you can often see decentralised management and distributed management. You see a lot of department silos, And you see marketing actually quite far removed from the customer. The customer itself becomes quite an abstract notion in within a lot of organisations. It's this idea of customer. You ask a lot of B2B organisations, have you spoken to a customer? Do you know one? A lot of the times the answer is no. It's remarkable. And to get around that, it's going to require quite a significant organisational shift. It's not for the faint-hearted. But it will be essential, because what you can't do is divorce the employee and the customer experience. They're intrinsically linked. You can't achieve one with the other. And it's necessary to deliver sustained performance. But then we have tech. Tech is great. I'm excited by tech. It's a game changer. It's there to enable us as marketing. It's there to fulfill better customer experiences at the other end. And Salesforce report suggests that AI and the Internet of Things are going to be what we're going to be consuming the most in the next 2 years. We have a client, Renault Trucks. They have a fleet of connected vehicles that allow us to detect issues before they happen. Predictive servicing, a new conversation on efficiency and productivity. That's great. The AI agenda as well, for those of you that haven't adopted it, I'm sure that many of you are starting to get to grips with it. You know, it fulfills something that's going to be fundamental in the customer experience agenda, which is personalization at scale. We can't do it on our own. We need the technology to fulfill that promise. But in fulfilling that promise, what I find exciting about AI and machine learning is the other things that it helps us to do, like taking out human bias and assumptions that can often get in the way. You can't iterate or create a number of customer journey flows or move at the speed of the variation of people's choices or preferences because it's literally physically impossible. But machine learning moves beyond that. It just looks at the data. It moves with the trends. It iterates. And it does that in a way that gets beyond our hard-coded opinions on what should happen. That doesn't do what should happen, it does what is happening, and it tries to iterate that through the mix, which I think is really exciting. I see bots getting better and better month on month, and we're going to continue to see that grow, especially through social channels. And we're going to see personalized customer service at scale through social. I think many of you have probably already experienced that. But I think the tech is exciting. It is game-changing, but I would like to bring us back to humans, because I think the customer experience agenda does hinge on humans first. It requires the right sort of leadership and perspective to galvanize teams, to orchestrate those teams, to try and fulfill the potential of this type of strategy. Now, we're in B2B marketing, so we need to always make sure that the economic case stacks up. And what we're starting to see is a proven link between quality of experience and commercial outcomes businesses enjoy as a consequence. We're seeing a broader variation of KPIs that people are being able to bring to bear. KPMG Numwood are a great example of an organisation that's doing this extensively, and they're acquiring a great bank of data that's helping us make the business case. Demonstration of lower cost of acquisition, repurchase loyalty, reduction to price sensitivity, positive word of mouth and advocacy. Now, these are all drivers of growth, and they help us to start going beyond net promoter scores, which I'm sure lots of you are already harnessing. But net promoter scores are quite narrow. That it doesn't tell us much. It's a very top-line metric. And I think as the customer experience strategy starts being adopted more as business strategy, it's going to be necessary for us as marketers to make the business case, to continue to get under the skin of customer issues. And by God, I hope my airline does that sometime soon. And talking of the economic case, I'd like to make some suggestions of what you might be able to do today before you start calling in the consultants. I guess the first thing you need to do is either accept or reject the agenda. You don't have to buy into it, it's entirely your choice. But either way, I would urge you to keep your ear out in terms of your business leaders. Look for the signals. Are there changes in language? Are there changes in behaviour? Prime yourself for the argument. 3, gain perspective on existing customer experience. It's cliche, walk in the shoes of your customers. But for this agenda, seriously, go walk in the shoes of your customers. From there to there, do the full journey, and start gaining a clear perspective on it. Remember Drucker. Start looking at the business through the eyes of your customers. The moment that you can start doing that, you've got something to say back to the business. Management will listen to that, If you can be reflective of your customer's point of view, that's really, really valuable in my book. 4, create multi-dimensional views of your customers, their needs, their motivations. And 5, run a journey mapping pilot. Don't let the consultant spook you off. Run a pilot. Do it for yourself. Have a go. There's plenty of material online that allow you to run a workshop. If you don't believe that, drop me a line. I'll send you a framework. But invite in cross-department teams, minimize the marketing jargon, and talk customer. And I promise you, you'll have a productive conversation. It might not be completely elegant or flawless, but that's not the point. Have the conversation, have the debate. And I promise you, information on gaps and issues and quick wins will materialize. That conversation will give you things to act on straight away. But document the process and use that as a basis to create an action plan. And I guess what I'm driving at with this is, don't rely on third parties to tell you what to do and all this sort of stuff. You have to gain your own perspective on it, because it's bigger and deeper than a bit of execution. Start understanding the complexities of the things that you're going to need to address going forwards, and start, mapping where your knowledge gaps are. Start filling them, because this is a long game, not a short game. So that when the CEO does inevitably come to you, taps you on the shoulder, you can look them straight in the eye and explain to them a high-level strategy where you're making happy customers as a central part of the growth strategy going forwards that will also give you a competitive edge. If you're able to do that, if marketing collectively is able to do that, in my book, that's CXE marketing. Thank you.